Hey friends, Peggy Hall streaming live with you here. And I have a question for you. And this is a question that I've been asking myself, and it's the direction that I want to go in, especially during these trials and setbacks that we have in our everyday life, even prior to all of the hogwash that we have sloshed all over us. You know, and I know that there have been stormy seas that we've been through, and it can be very frustrating when we can't get things to go the way that we want them to. I know because I have heard from so many of you, and I have been in that position myself. When I think back over the last couple of years and the entrances that I've been denied, places that I wanted to go, planes that I wanted to fly on, people that I wanted to see, there were so many rejections again and again and again. Now we are 2 years into this, and there are so many losses that I'm hearing about. Those of you that are telling me about your loved ones that are having medical conditions, loved ones that are passing away, there are so many trials and traumas that we are experiencing. And the question that I ask myself, and the question that I'm posing for you today is, how can I be who I want to be, even in the midst of all of these trials? For me, this is the only thing, well, for all of us really, but it's something that I'm aware of. It's the only thing that we can really control is who we are in the circumstances of life. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what you can control, what you can't control, and then some of my approaches for actually becoming the person that you want to be, even in the midst of the stormy seas. We cannot control the storms. Well, I've done some videos about that because I know who controls these storms, or it tries to control them. But the point is, there are circumstances that happen in our life that we often cannot control. You cannot control whether or not a loved one betrays you in their words and their actions. Maybe they told you they were going to remain a pure blood, and then it turns out that behind your back, they did the poison, they did the evil deed and they poisoned themselves. You may find yourself in a circumstance where you have lost your job, where you are having financial difficulties, where you are being denied medical care. I have heard from so many of you that are in these situations. A story comes to mind, a situation comes to mind from a client that I had that was asking for my input and advice, not legal advice, but helpful advice, because he was going to be attending a seminar where he had been denied this attendance for the last couple of years. And it was causing him a great deal of anxiety to go to this seminar and to present his professional paper. And he asked me, Peggy, how can I deal with the anxiety? How can I get rid of the anxiety in order to go to this seminar? And it dawned on me that he was actually asking the wrong question. To me, the question is not how do I get rid of the anxiety, but it's who do I want to be in this anxious circumstance. For him, the circumstance of facing all of these people that he hadn't seen for the last couple of years because he was a pureblood and they wouldn't allow him to go and present his professional presentations at these seminars. And now it was really a conference, and now he was going to attend the conference, and he felt very anxious about this. What were people going to say? Were they going to ridicule him? Were they going to wonder where he was? Were they going to shun him because he was a pureblood? So all of these legitimate concerns were going through his mind, and they were causing him a great deal of anxiety and trepidation. He was unsure whether or not he wanted to go. And he asked me, how can I get rid of the anxiety? The better question for me is, who do I want to be in this anxious situation? To acknowledge his truth, which was he was feeling anxious. There were going to be people that he hadn't seen before. And so what we worked on instead was, who did he want to be in this circumstance? He couldn't change the circumstance. You and I have no control over what people think about us, what they say about us, what they say to us, what they say to others about us. We don't even know if what they're saying is what they believe. It's impossible for anyone to truly know what another person is thinking or feeling or saying. All we can do is see their actions. And that is also very biblical, that the fruit of these actions and the actions themselves will often say a lot more about the person than what they say. The point that I'm getting at is this: ask yourself, who And how do I want to be in these stormy seas? I'm going to give you a very simple, maybe even a trivial example. And today in Southern California, it's very chilly. I normally go for a swim, and the swimming pool where I'm swimming is going under renovations. So the swimming pool is not available. It's a little bit cold to be out doing my normal kind of exercise. So who do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to complain about it? Do I want to grumble about it? Do I want the circumstances of my reality to derail me and put me in a bad mood? And it's so easy to go that way. And it's actually understandable. It's understandable if I feel disgruntled and a little bit put out that I don't have my normal exercise routine and that it's a cloudy, cold day today. It's Southern California. It's supposed to be sunny and warm. So I could allow the circumstances, the actual truth of the reality to bother me. Now, I'm using a trivial example on purpose so that we can remove some of the emotion from it. And then we can look a little bit more at some of the approaches that I take on days like this, where it's easy for me to grumble, be in a bad mood. But then I ask myself, who do I want to be in a situation like this? And I actually pose a question to myself, because asking the question will help me get closer to the how. Who do I want to be? And then how can I be this person? So here's the path that I take, and I hope that it will be helpful for you. The person that I want to be is, I want to be someone who is resourceful. I want to be able to find different remedies for the circumstances at hand. The person that I want to be is someone who rises above the inconveniences. In this case, it's just an inconvenience. And I understand that many of you are dealing with life and death, with loss and trauma that is far heavier than the simple circumstances that I'm presenting you with. But you can also ask yourself the same question. Who do I want to be in my grief? Who do I want to be in my sorrow? Do I want to be someone who is incapacitated? And I'm not answering these questions for you. You need to answer them for yourself. And the answer to your question may change, and that's fine as well. I ask myself these questions on a very frequent basis. So even in the loss and the sorrow and the hardships, I want to be a person who is resourceful. To me, that means someone who can look for different remedies and different solutions to the problem at hand. Or do I want to be a person who falls apart? Do I want to be a person that everybody else comes to the rescue for? Or do I want to be the leader? Do I want to find the way? Do I want to say, hey, friends, I found this path, come and follow me this way? Or do I want to sit back and let somebody else find the path? Sometimes I want to sit back and let somebody else take the lead, and that's okay as well. The point that I'm making is for you to be consciously aware of what you're feeling and who you are being in these circumstances. Going back to the fellow that I was consulting with, he, he came up with his own answers, and he said that he wants to be proud of how he conducts himself, even in the anxiety. He wants to feel a sense of accomplishment, that he went into these circumstances that were admittedly causing him anxiousness. And he wanted to see himself on the other side of it. He wanted to be able to pat himself on the back and say, I got through this even in the anxiety, even though I was feeling nervous and I thought that all eyes were going to be on me and I didn't know how well I would perform giving my presentation at the conference. I want to be someone who goes through this and comes out the other side. That was his answer to me. So the next question becomes, how do you become that person? We've got who you want to be. Now, how can you accomplish that? And that is where your own self-encouragement comes to the forefront. In my way of looking at life, we can look at self-criticism and self-encouragement. Self-criticism contains sentences and phrases and thoughts and even images and feelings such as, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get through this, I don't have to go, if it's so nerve-wracking, I'll just bow out, I don't have to give the presentation, everybody's going to laugh at me, I'm going to have all eyes on me. Those types of phrases are a type of self-criticism, and they're also quite negative. Additional phrases of self-criticism would include things like, I'm never going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Really using criticism as a roundabout way of trying to encourage yourself through something. I would rather take the direct path and just encourage myself through it and remind myself of times when I've gotten through these difficult situations in the past. I will remind myself of those. I will make a list of them. I will bring in the feelings that I felt of accomplishment, having gotten through that. And those are the tools that I use to set myself up for getting through these tough times and for helping encourage my own self to come a few steps closer to who I want to be. Who I want to be is a work in progress. I'm certainly not there yet. I am still working on it, but I have an idea and an image of how I want to be in these situations. I want to be unflappable. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I'm not unflappable. I'm quite flappable. And what I mean by that is I can flip my lid. I can have a rant. I can let my emotions run away with me because I'm simply human. But when that happens and after that happens, I like to regroup, to calm myself, and to think clearly about who I want to be and how I want to be in these stormy seas of life. The bottom line, friends, is that we cannot always have an impact on our circumstances and situations. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can create boundaries where we are not going to be in those circumstances and situations that cause us anxiety or upset. We can minimize where we are, who we are with, the images that we see, the videos that we see, the things that we read, the people that we talk to, so we can set compassionate, thoughtful boundaries around ourselves. And that has a great impact on our situation and our circumstances. But you may be saying, Peggy, I just found out that I had a rent increase or that my hours were cut at work. Now, there may or may not be something that you personally can do about that. That may be, as the saying goes, out of your hands. But what is within your hands is who you are going to be in this situation and how you are going to become that person. So a couple of things that I do. I like to journal, and I will write down and I'll put out my circumstances, what is going on in my life, and then I'll make a list. What are the things that I can control and change, and what are the things that I can't? And the things that I can't, I put on God's list, and I pray about those things, and I ask God for direction and protection and wisdom and insights and inspiration and encouragement, and most of all, peace. Oh, when we can bring in a sense of peace and a sense of peace of mind surrounding these circumstances that we can't change, then we can create a sense of empowerment. I have zero control over whether or not the swimming pool is open. I have zero control, and I had zero control over whether or not they would even let me in the swimming pool because I was breathing oxygen. And yes, they wanted me to suffocate outside on that pool deck, and I did not comply. But what I did have control over was finding another way, being resourceful, asking myself, what can I do about that? There's always another way, and I'm going to find it. I had to drive much farther to find a swimming pool. I actually put a post on Facebook, and one of my Healthy Americans invited me over to her community complex to swim. It was cumbersome, it was far, but I did it. There is always another way. So ask yourself, who do you want to be, and how can you become that person in these trials and tribulations? A couple of things I wrote down. I want to be creative, and I want to be put together. I do not want to fall apart at what's going on in the world. I want to guard my heart, which contains my emotions. I want to guard my thoughts, which means I'm going to take every thought captive. I'm going to look at my thoughts, and that's what I do when I journal. So I will journal how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, and what thoughts I want to change and what feelings I want to change. And then I normally begin with the thoughts. If I can bring in empowering thoughts, such as, well, in my trivial situation today, the weather is bad, the swimming pool is closed. And so I could allow myself to be grumpy, or I could say, fantastic, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to catch up on some of those projects that I had set aside. Today is a perfect day to handle all of those projects. because I'm not going to be spending time on the road, driving to the swimming pool, so on and so forth. Positive thinking is not enough. It's generating a sensation of empowerment about your circumstances. So to wrap up, and I would love to see what you have to say, who do you want to be and how can you be that person? Sometimes we need support from others. And it's wonderful to reach out to a supportive friend. That's who I want to be for you. I want to add positive value to your life. I've heard from so many of you that say, Peggy, I tune into your channel because you make me feel better. You're able to get through things and all of the oppression and the tyranny with a smile on your face. And when you get upset, it's righteous anger, and it makes me feel better when you blow off steam, because then I do as well. But I know that after watching your channel, I'm going to feel better, more hopeful, more empowered, more encouraged, and more inspired. And that's exactly what I want to do for you here, friends. So think about what is in your control. Think about who you want to be in these troubling times, and who you want to be may change over time. I want to be someone who's put together, who is unflappable, maybe a little bit flappable when the circumstances call for it. But I want to rise above the tyranny and the oppression. I want to maintain my thoughts, my emotions on an even keel. I want to express righteous anger when it is warranted. But most of all, I want to find another way. I want to look for solutions and remedies and strategies and resources that are going to empower me going forward. So I love seeing you here on the channel. Thank you so much for being a part of our positive encouragement community, for being a healthy American. Thank you to our moderators on the channel that are keeping the stream flowing. And be sure to join me every afternoon for my live streams. They currently are running at 5 p.m. I may bump that up to 4 p.m. because I lose the light. It's a little bit more difficult for me to film. So again, instead of grumbling about it, I'm going to find another way. There's always another way, and I'm going to find it, and I want to help you find it as well. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you being on board, and I appreciate you giving your support to everyone in the chat and in the comments, because that is exactly how we get through these stormy seas. See you soon, everybody.